All right, Hall of Fame series, talking about Hall of Fame players. And since we're into the 95 year, I thought this would be a good time to talk about Joe Sakic, who was a captain for the Quebec Nordiques and took a lot of flack. He'd end up taking it as a GM too, but this past year that kind of went away. He's an unheralded player for the most part until he reaches the NHL. Not seen as being a transformative superstar, and he kind of ends up being that. He debuts in 88-89. He gets 23 goals, 39 assists, 62 points in 70 games for a pretty bad Quebec team. And they would be pretty bad the whole time that almost the whole time he's in Quebec. 89-90, he gets 39 goals, 63 assists, 102 points in 80 games. And keep in mind, this is when the Quebec Nordiques were the worst team in the league. So he's the first player to ever have 100 points on the worst team in the league. 90-91, he plays 80 games, 48 goals, 61 assists, 109 points. They're hot garbage, but he's fantastic. The thing is, this is right about where it starts, the whole conversation of, yeah, Quebec's really bad. You know, Sakic's in this culture of losing, and that could hurt him in the long term. And, you know, at some point he's going to have to be a winner. What if he's not the guy to be with a winning team? 91-92, 69 games played, 29 goals, 65 assists, 94 points. This is right in and around where the Lindros drama is coming up. And they ask him about Lindros, and they stick a microphone in his face. And what's Sakic's answer? It's, if he doesn't want to play here, we don't want him here. We don't want the drama. We don't need it in the locker room. And, we'll just deal with it as it comes. And it's fine. He can stay away as long as he wants. So they finally make a trade, and they bring in Forsberg and some other pretty nifty pieces, and the team gets better. 92-93, 78 games played, 48 goals, 57 assists, 105 points. And Quebec's on their way. They're on their way. They're better. This is going to be good. And then they lose in the first round. So the storyline is still one of Quebec is better, but is Sakic a winner? The following season, he plays 84 games, 28 goals, 64 assists, 92 points. Those 28 goals, disappointing. And again, the conversation is, can this team win with Sakic? Maybe they need to move him out. Because remember, at this point, we were up to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years of Joe Sakic. So 6 years into his career, and Quebec doesn't look any further ahead. So when people talk about McDavid and Edmonton, they might want to look back at this. Of course, that would mean that Edmonton has to get moved, but we'll get there. In 94-95, the lockout shortened season that I just covered this morning, 47 games played, 19 goals, 43 assists, 62 points. And they lose in the first round to the 8th seed, the New York Rangers. So Montreal takes him out here, the Rangers take him out here, and the conversation is still one of, yeah, but can Sakic win? But then the conversation becomes, hey, wait, we're going to Colorado. The team has moved to Denver. And everything changes because the Nordiques, now the Avalanche, get Patrick Roy, 95-96. So big year for him. 82 games played, 51 goals, 69 assists, 120 points. Career high for his point totals and for his assists as well. So big year, and he ends up winning the Conn Smythe because Colorado Avalanche, I keep wanting to say Rockies because the history videos I've been doing, Colorado Avalanche, spoiler alert, win the Stanley Cup in 1996. Fantastic run for him, and all of that talk with one run disappears. It's gone. The whole, you can't win, well, maybe Sakic's not the guy, well, maybe you need to trade him. It's gone. But something changes in 1997. 96-97, he plays 65 games, dealing with injuries. 22 goals, 52 assists, 74 points. So not fantastic totals, especially for him. The New York Rangers are losing Mark Messier. So the Rangers are like, we need to replace Messier. That Sakic guy is going to be a free agent. We're going to offer him 3 years at $21 million, so $7 million a year. This is a restricted free agent, Group 2 restricted free agent. And at the time, it's still the qualifying offers and 10% raises. Now, GMs around the league kind of agree. Okay, so all these guys should get 10% raises, right? We don't want anybody getting that raise until they're 31. Because it's 31 before unrestricted free agency. Think about that. Think about where we are right now with what players get and when they're free agents, and 31 being when you're unrestricted. The contract signed by Sakic is matched by the Avalanche, but it makes the NHL angry. Sakic, Correa, and Lindros are all restricted free agents who the NHL's GMs wanted to make sure were limited to that 10% raise and weren't. Rogue GMs went out and signed these deals and said these guys are worth this amount of money. Sakic had made $3 million a year, or 3.1, I think, and he's coming out of a year that wasn't great for him, but he's a year past winning the Conn Smythe and leading his team to a Stanley Cup, and he's been in the league for 8 years, and you've got GMs and owners going 10% raise for these guys, and you wonder why we have lockouts. By signing that contract, it's part of how we ended up with a salary cap. It is part of how we ended up with more lockouts. Because GMs just aren't able to control themselves. You give them a contract and you say, okay, here, you guys have to obey these rules. And their answer is, okay, what's the loophole for this one? Is there a loophole for that one? This one says I can only give him a raise of X amount of dollars. Can I give him that if I defer this amount to that? Okay. And then they have accountants work on it too. And they all sit down and work it all out together. And then in the end, they end up saying, hey, we screwed up. Can we go back and get a do-over? And the players go, you gave us the money. And the players are demonized. Now, coming out of that contract signing, 97, 98, he plays 67 games, 27 goals, 36 assists, 63 points. So not tremendous totals by his standards, but he recovers. 98, 99, he plays 73 games, 41 goals, 55 assists, 96 points. So he's had 400-point seasons. He would have had 100 that year, but he only played 73 games. He missed 9. And the missing games has kind of become a thing. 99, 2000, he only plays 60. 28 games, or 28 goals, 53 assists, 81 points altogether. And when you see the amount of games he misses due to injury at this point, it's amazing that he ends up playing the amount of games that he did in his career, that he hits 1,378 games. But 2000, 2001, he's finally healthy. 82 games, 54 goals, which is a career high. He only scored 50 goals twice in his career, 64 assists, 118 points. He wins the Hart Trophy, he wins the Lady Byng, he wins the Pearson, and he wins the Stanley Cup. And when he won the Stanley Cup, he broke with tradition. The Stanley Cup going to the captain is tradition. It's not an NHL rule. It's just the captain grabs it. He deferred to Ray Bourque. Ray Bourque had come over to Colorado the previous year at the trade deadline, and with the idea that because Boston was inept, he was never going to win a Stanley Cup there. And at the time he left Boston, it was as dysfunctional as it had been, and I had no problem with him leaving Boston. Bourque got to carry that cup around. So Sakic hands him the cup rather than take that victory lap because he wanted Bourque to have that. And that's how Bourque's career ended. And it was absolutely perfect, and that was a fantastic moment that showed how selfless he was. And it dispels any notion along the way here that he's selfish or he's not a winner, doesn't have the right attitude. So we hear that about young players now, and yeah, you can have that opinion, but in the end, a lot of the time the player's going to prove you wrong. 2002, 2003, injuries will limit him to 58 games. He plays 26 goals, 32 assists, 58 points. 2003, 2004, the last year before the lockout, 81 games played, 33 goals, 54 assists, 87 points. So not bad. Not bad by his standards. Coming out of the lockout, 05-06, 82 games played, 32 goals, 55 assists, 87 points. 06-07, this is his last full season in the NHL. He plays 82 games, 36 goals, 64 assists, 100 points. But all the miles he's put on his body are starting to add up, and it's starting to catch up with him. So in 2007, 2008, he plays 44 games, 13 goals, 27 assists, 40 points. And we know he's on his way out. So in 08-09, he only plays 15 games before he calls it quits. 2 goals, 10 assists, 12 points. For his career, as I said, 1,378 games played, 625 goals, 1,016 assists, 1,641 points. He's a first-team All-Star in the NHL in 2001, 2002, and 2004. And he is remembered for his Stanley Cups. But the one part that's not remembered is him being kept by the Avalanche when the Rangers made that offer. Can you imagine how different things would have been if he had gone to the Rangers? What that would have done to the Avs down the middle, and how that would have changed the Rangers' fortunes going forward? But anyways, it didn't end up working out for the Rangers, but it worked out pretty well for the Avs. And now he's the GM, and he does a pretty decent job at that, thanks to the Duchesne trade. Before the Duchesne trade, there was a lot of people, myself included, that felt that he was on borrowed time, but he makes the Duchesne trade, and then they make the playoffs. So at this stage of the game, things are looking up if you're an Avs fan. And I felt that this was a good time to do a video on a guy that I know there's been talked for a long time about the whole Sakic thing. You know what? Screw it. I should do a video on a Hall of Famer who deserves to have a video made about him, regardless of whatever circumstances occurred back then. For what I'm doing now, it works. So let me know your thoughts in the comments section below, as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Hall of Fame career, and as I said in the history videos, we're up to where he finally came into his own. But he had to slog through some pretty bad teams in Quebec, and that wasn't really his fault. Thank you guys again for watching, and thanks again for the 60,000. It's nice to see 60,000 plus. It's nice to see that. Makes me feel pretty good today, and thanks for that. I'll talk to you again soon.